Hey guys, my name is Jackson, and this is the Indie Dev Intensive. We're gonna, over the next 12 weeks, um, I'm gonna present to you basically everything I've learned about the arduous process of designing, developing, and then ultimately finishing a game of your own. And so I guess the first thing that I just want to say is thank you for being here. Thank you for taking your development seriously. I think developing games, and I think especially indie games, it's quite a courageous endeavor. It's a courageous thing to invest money in a course like this, but it tells me that you take it seriously, and so I respect that a lot. And I hope that I can help you. Game dev can be really hard, man. Like I'll be honest, and not always necessarily for the reasons that you expect. I think lots of people sort of know that it's hard because a lot of work goes into it, and it's very multidisciplinary, and takes a long time, and is technically challenging, and all of that. And we'll talk about all of that. We'll talk about that in a bit of detail. But the other side of what I want to cover in this course is more of the indie side of it as well. So developing an indie game, we'll get into this more, but it's the good thing about it and the bad thing about it is that there's no sort of right or wrong way to do it. And that's great because you can do games that you want, you can develop how you want, you can spend as long on it as you want. There's no right or wrong way to make a game. There's no real criteria for what you need to do or how you're supposed to do it. It's up to you to decide. And so you get to be creative. You get to take the initiative. You get to choose the direction. You get to be visionary, and you get to work on it in your own pace, at your own time, when you want, how you want. So that's the thing that attracts people to it, is you get to express yourself like that and live the way that you want to live and develop games the way that you want to make them. But then, of course, the other side of that, the dark side of it, is that when there's that freedom and it's only up to you to decide what to do, that can become very confusing and overwhelming, because then you start to have questions. Well, am I doing this right? Am I on track? Is this game actually good? What if I fuck it up? And then say you have a technical problem. It's like, for example, like my computer this morning, one of the fans was like making this horrible noise and wouldn't even start. And I thought at first that it was a sign from above that I wasn't meant to do this course this morning. But I pulled the computer apart and cleaned the fan, and it turned out to be okay. But anyway, that's a sort of sidetrack. But sometimes things can happen with your projects where maybe you get some corrupted data or something, and then you might feel all alone with that, and you're not really sure like how to solve it, and it's very easy to become disheartened. A lot of indie development can be done alone, because sort of the appeal of it is that you get to do your own vision. But if you spend a lot of time alone without the connection to other indie developers, it can become very easy to get disheartened when some challenges arises, and it can become difficult to sort of know like if you're on track and if your game's good, and it's easy to start to doubt yourself and things like that. So those are all sort of the soft challenges of indie game development, which we're going to get into. But basically this week we'll skip ahead to the next slide. As I mentioned, this is going to be 12 weeks, and the way to sort of approach this course is that every week I'm going to give you a video like this one to do. You watch the video, and then throughout the slides you'll get access to these slides as well, but throughout the slides there's going to be some exercises that I suggest that you do that week. Just a sort of disclaimer, or not a disclaimer, but just to sort of alleviate some of your anxiety about the exercises. None of it's mandatory. It's all suggested. It's all recommended. I recommend that you do all of them. But obviously, if one of them doesn't feel right to you, then or say like you feel like your time might be better spent developing your game rather than doing some like vision boarding or something that I've suggested in here, like I think you should trust your own intuition, because at the end of the day, like I said at the start, the appeal of indie game development is basically that you get to decide. It's that you get to trust your own intuition. It's you get to follow your inner compass to do the work that you want to do. And so you can follow a course like this 12-week course, and you can learn a lot from somebody like me who's had previous experiences making game after game after game and falling into pitfall after pitfall after pitfall and finding what works and finding what doesn't. You can learn a lot from that, but ultimately the only way to become an indie game developer is basically to make games, and you need to learn to rely on your judgment and just develop the confidence in yourself to address problems as they come up, and to learn how to divide up your time to do what you think is important, basically. So everything here is a guide. It's not a Bible, even though this man on the screen looks like he's praying at the moment. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to share my experiences, and over these 12 weeks sort of walk with you through the development of your own game. So with that out of the way, let's crack into week 1. I was going to cut that video, but I'm going to just keep going. Introduction and intention. So I'm going to read a little bit from these slides, but basically if you want to go into further detail about some of the stuff that's written here, you've got the slides here and you can read them yourself. I'm not going to read everything. So why make a game? We've sort of already covered this. Create something beautiful, express yourself, explore the untapped possibilities of interactive digital media. Game development is a very exciting field, I think, because it's very much on the cutting edge of technology, basically, and video games are very new. It's a field that's quickly developing. The technology is getting better and better and better, and a lot of the possibilities of what a video game can and should be, I think, are very much unexplored. Basically, games, even though we play them on a computer now, a flat screen with a user interface that is a keyboard for tapping on and a mouse or a console controller or whatever. Basically, what you're doing when you're making a game is you're creating a whole like virtual world, and inside that world it can be a whole other universe. It's a very exciting thing, and games are unique compared to other forms of media like movies or music and things like that, because they're interactable. It's not just a passive thing that you listen to or watch and get taken on a ride by like the director of the film or like by the musician. When people play games can be that, but they can also, if you emphasize the interactive part, it's like the player is part of that story and is part of that experience. And so in that way, like, players can engage with games in a way that is more like intimate than any other form of media, and I think can be more impactful than any other form of media, quite frankly. I think video games cop a lot of flack. I think people, it obviously depends on like the groups of people that you pay attention to, but society-wide I think there's a prejudice sort of towards video games where people look at them as if you're wasting time if you're playing games, and that they should be balanced with other things. And I think balance is good, but I also think that the reason people are so drawn to video games is because the whole discipline of video game development is basically reality engineering. And people love great video games because they present an alternative reality which is better than the one that exists out in the world. And so what you're doing as a game developer, I think, is it's a very profound form of art that paves the way for better human existence, basically, and you explore that through play. So that's one reason to make a game. All the other reasons as well, the experience the joy of creativity. I think being in creative flow is essential to be a healthy human being. Connect with like-minded people, great. It's always good to feel seen and related to. Being witnessed and appreciated by players and peers, great. You can make money from game development and learn new skills as well. So what makes you a game developer? As you can see here, my opinion is that game developers are people who make games. And it's not your job title. It's not how much skill you've got. It's not your education. It's not whether or not you've necessarily got published titles or success or whatever. I think all of these things are external validators of game development, but I don't think you need any of these things to regard yourself as a game developer, because I think the most important thing, it's not the success, it's not your education, it's not the job that you've got. I think the most important thing is whether or not you make games, and whether or not you make games that you love. And I think as long as you're making games and as long as you're working, then you're a game developer. It's the same thing as artists. It's like, does getting your art in a museum make you a serious artist? Like, you don't. It's like, I think the fact of actually painting and making art is what makes you an artist. Same with musicians. Obviously, it's good to have success, and we'll talk about success and all that shit as we sort of go along. But I've got this quote down here just about philosophy school, and basically the quote goes that you can go to philosophy school to learn philosophy, but you won't actually learn how to philosophize. You'll only learn what the other philosophers thought. Or put more simply, is going to philosophy school will teach you. It won't teach you how to think, but how the other philosophers thought. And the same is true with game development. It's like, you can study it, you can work on other people's games and whatever, but I don't think you actually learn how to develop games until you sort of have that initiative yourself and you figure out how to do it. So, who is this course for? So, it's for people who've never made a game. It's for people who have tried to make games but failed. If you want to be better at it, you can take it as a student, you can take it as an employee, an entrepreneur, you can be unemployed, it doesn't matter. Artists, programmers, people who are neither artists nor programmers. The only prerequisite is a desire to express yourself with your art through game development and to create something that's significant to you. If you care about games and you want to make a game, then great. You're in the right place. What we're not going to cover in the course, which I covered on the landing page, is we're not going to talk about publishing, marketing, or making money. What we're going to be focusing on is about making the game. So designing, developing, releasing. We're going to talk about how to release it on Steam and to do all your Steam page and everything like that. But we're not going to be covering how to distribute that game, get maximum reach, or like monetize it. That's something that we can do in another one. So here's a quick overview of the course. Before starting, this is before we starting the game. We're going to talk about intention. We're going to talk about imagination. So this is sort of an analogy for like giving birth. It's like, when you're developing a game, it's kind of like you're giving birth. Basically, you go through all of these stages where it's like you conceive your idea and then you have to grow it and nurture it through all these different cycles, and then you eventually give birth to it. And basically, you've got to take the same care of yourself when you're developing a game as you would when a person's like pregnant, because it's a difficult experience. It can be quite exhausting, and a lot of energy has to go into forming this thing that you're giving birth to. You can be in quite a fragile state. It's a very like satisfying and like healthy and good state to be in. It's a life-giving state, but you've got to be conscious and take care of yourself while you go throughout this process. So yeah, we're going to talk about developing and then staying the course. So one of the most difficult things about game development is actually, once you've got the ideas and you've set up your project and everything, is actually staying it through to the end. And we're going to have entire chapters about that later on, because it's such an important part. And so part of that is obviously staying healthy. Part of it is your mental health, so staying sane. And then we're going to talk about some of the precautions as well. So how to prepare for the common pitfalls that people run into as they get along their journey. So then we'll talk about release, and then about finding resources and support as well. And so here is a overview of the actual course. So week 1, introduction and intention, that's today. Week 2, minimum viable product. What that basically means, well, I'll explain what that means in week 2, but basically we're going to be coming up with the smallest basic plan to develop your game, because scope creep is like a notorious thing for game development. It's very easy for your plans to sort of spiral out of control, and also to become overwhelmed when you're just beginning your project. And so what is very good to do at the start is to just identify the core things that are important to the game, the things that the game can't do without, and then that's what we do for our first prototype. So that helps keep things manageable. In week 3, we're going to actually set up a project. I'll show you how to use source control and to set up your packaging settings so that the game is ready to package and release basically as soon as possible. One of the worst things about game development, or one of the worst experiences, is as you're sort of getting to the end, when you're approaching your release date and then you go to package the game and then you've got errors and it won't package and you don't know why. So what I like to do is get the game ready to package extremely early, and then that helps me keep a healthy project, because it's like you can package a build, playtest it, iterate, do more stuff in the engine, and then basically just repeat. And at any point in the development cycle, you're basically ready to say, okay, I'm done with this game, hit the package button, and then it's good to upload. So that's what we do in week 3. We did that early on. Week 4, we start planning a playable prototype, so something that you'll actually be able to package and play. And then over those 2 weeks, from week 4 to week 5, that's when you're going to be developing that, and by the end of week 5, we're going to have a playable prototype. It doesn't sound like long. 2 weeks isn't a very long time, but it doesn't need to be a long time to produce something that's playable. It doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to have any of the visual stuff, if that's sort of secondary. Sort of in the early weeks, we'll go through prioritizing what is important to you in a game and what's not so important. Making calls about judgment, like these sorts of calls, is sort of the essence of indie game development. It's about choosing the right things to do, choosing what's important to you in your game, and then executing on that. So week 6, that's when we start development on the full version of the game. We're going to make a plan for what you want it to be like when it's complete. And then basically from week 6 through to week 9, that's when that's going to be a month of just steady game development. It's like we've done all the setup, we've got the project ready, we've even got a demo build, and now we're going to spend a month just basically developing it. We're going to be checking in with ourselves to make sure that we're staying sane and staying on track. We're going to be packaging builds. We're going to do a package at the end of week 7, and you can do playtesting, you can send it to people as well, but basically this is nose to the grindstone sort of thing. Not in a way that's going to exhaust you, which we'll talk about, but just putting in the work and doing something that you're proud of, like putting in the blood and the sweat and the tears to really give it your all, and to produce something that you look back on fondly and be like, wow, like I did that. So that looks different for every person, and so there's no right or wrong way to do any of this, like I've said. But yep, that's what we'll be doing for those 4 weeks. Week 10, I'm going to show you how to set up a Steam page. So that's got its own sort of little kinks and complications with how to upload your project and things like that. So that's what we're going to do. Week 11 will be bug fixing, because now we've got a complete game. And then in week 12, we launch. And then afterwards, you can share that, we can chat about it on the server and everything. And all throughout these weeks, there's going to be different exercises that you can do to stay on track, touch base with the community, and make sure everything's going as planned. So those are sort of the extended points there. You can read those. And so this picture on the right here, this is a picture from the story called The Alchemist. And basically the Alchemist is about this young man here on the left. And he had a vision of a treasure, and he left his home, traveled to these strange lands, and he was in search of this treasure. And he met this very mysterious old man in a town square. And basically the old man like saw into his soul, and he told the boy, he's like, you have a vision, like you're a spiritual seeker, like I can see it in your eyes, basically. And I know where your treasure is. And so the young man, he was just like, oh my God, like tell me. And the old man was like, well, I could just tell you, but you won't take it seriously, kind of thing. And so like I want you to pay me. And so the young man was like, oh well, like I don't have that much money, like what if I just give you like a percentage of the treasure when I find it? And the old man was basically just like, no bitch, like give me your blood, like your money, like up front, and then I'll tell you where it is. And it's an interesting metaphor, because basically this sort of action of like investing in the money in it now, the real tangible result now, that has a sort of like it flicks a switch sort of in your brain where it's like, okay, now it's real, because now you've got skin in the game, and you've already done that with this course. So you wouldn't be here if you weren't serious about it. But if you wanted to take the next step, that's something that I recommend doing. But you can also release to a free platform. You don't have to publish it to Steam. It doesn't have to be published public. You can just share it with your friends, and that's fine as well. So this is the next part of the commitment. I'm not going to read through all this. You can read through it if you want. But basically, the purpose of this slide is just to just sort of get you thinking about like how you're going to take care of yourself throughout the course. There's going to be parts where it might be hard, and that doesn't mean that you need to suffer and push through it. Basically, the way to go through this course is to just be aware of the challenges that are coming up, be aware of the way that it affects you, and just keep doing your best. And so like I've written some stuff in here that you might want to consider as like a as like a contract, I suppose, or like an intention coming into the project. So like, I understand that this course of my game will take time and energy and complete, and I am ready and willing to invest that time and energy if it means making a game that I love. That's one term that you might consider. And so like just down the bottom here, I've said you can print and sign these terms. It helps. I think it helps to do something physical to sort of reinforce what it is that we're doing here. And so here's another good point that I've highlighted in bold. I understand that making a game can be mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausting. Throughout the duration of the course, I will take care of myself and slow down if I need to. These are all terms that you could agree with yourself, or you could even just write your own sort of contract and then just sign it at the bottom. Have it on a piece of paper and like maybe put it on your wall as something, as just a reminder that like it's this might get tough. I don't know how it's going to go. Like 12 weeks is a long time. I've never made a game before. I'm a little bit nervous. And I think writing all of that stuff down and then being like, that's okay, and I'm going to commit to it and do my best anyway. And if I can't make it, like that's also fine, but I'm going to try. Tangibly acknowledging that, I think is a very powerful thing. So, and the next thing, so we're better together. Just reading the dot points, game dev is difficult. This course gives you the tools, but nothing can replace the human contact and community and support. And support is more about technical skill, is about more than technical skill and information. And it's about belief in yourself. It's about being mirrored by other people. So meaning like they reflect back to you the positive aspects of your work and in yourself that you want to embody. So that's encouragement basically. It's like it's positive reflection from other people, just validating that what you're doing is good, and it's like you're brave for trying to make a game and all those things. And so this picture on the right, this is the picture of the mycelium network beneath some trees, and basically each one of these trees sort of stands as an individual, but beneath the surface it's like they're all connected by the mycelial fungi network. And basically through that mushroom network, all these different trees, they actually share resources among themselves, and they're connected beneath the surface. And this is sort of how I think game development works. It's like you have these projects that sort of pop up like that, and they look like their own separate things, but the reason that they all succeed is because of this network beneath, where it's like we're connected to other people, we're connected to different communities, we're connected to the people who make the game engine, the people who make the computers, like so many different things. It's like all of these games, like they're not just made by the teams who like take credit for them. It's like lots of other support goes into them. And so what we're going to try and do in this private Discord community is just build up that network basically, so that we have got this like big web of shared resources, of technical and emotional support for each other, and we can help each other grow basically. So that's sort of what we're building in the community. And so your next task for the week is to once you send me your receipt to the course, I can add you to the private channels in the Discord server. So this is going to be an exclusive channel for people of the course, and it's going to be carefully moderated and curated so that everybody feels safe and encouraged in it. One of the things which I'll talk about later is the consequences of basically sharing your work with people who aren't going to support it, I suppose. Like it's good to get feedback, obviously, but I think when you're in the early stages of making a game, and particularly if it's your first game, but for all games, honestly, in all forms of art, sharing it with the wrong people too early can actually have a very negative influence on it. I don't buy into the idea that you should just get feedback at any cost indiscriminately from anybody and just be able to deal with it. I think it's especially important for more personal and creative projects because they're obviously close to your heart, and if they're different as well, like people will shit on like anything that you do, but basically in the early stages, I think it's especially important to get support from the right people and build the confidence in yourself, and know that what you're doing is worthwhile, and not expose like the small sort of sapling that's your project to like harsh cold frost like too early. You want to build it in a safe and nurturing environment, and then once it's stronger, then you can sort of share it to the world. So that's the kind of community that we're going to be building here on Discord, is a place where people feel safe to explore the things that are meaningful to them, and yeah, to help foster unique creative ideas. So that's what we're going to do. And so once you're in the server, so send me your receipt and you'll get into the server, and then once you're in, I want you to write an introduction to yourself so that I know who you are, everybody else knows who you are, and that way we can sort of better support each other through each other's projects. So there's a questionnaire pinned into the introduction channel of the server. So it's a bunch of different questions. There's maybe like 9 or 12 questions or something. So just go through each of those and just answer those and then post your response. And so everybody can just read that, and it's like they're aware of you now. And then you can share your project if you want as you go, and we can all support each other. So things that you'll get from the channel, I've already sort of talked about this. So you'll meet like-minded people, chat in a safe, moderated and encouraging environment. Great. You can get technical and community support, and you're obviously going to be making connections you can do it for professional reasons as well. So you can share assets, you can work together, etc. And it's a great way to ensure your success, basically, because we're better together. So we're just going to talk quickly about intention now. And the reason intention is important, because as I've written here, intention sort of determines your outcome. Intention's a very powerful thing. Like what is your moment of inertia? That's a term that I really like when you're doing your project. It's like, do you really believe that what you're doing is important and it's something that you want to see through the end, or are you sort of lukewarm about it? Basically, if we can get sort of the intention right so that your heart is on board with your project, it's much easier to see it through to the end. So basically, I've got this analogy here. So in martial arts, they teach you when you want to punch something, you want to sort of visualize your arm like going through the bag or going through your opponent. So I've written punched here through the back of the skull. It's a bit dramatic, but basically it's like your intention with that punch, it determines the trajectory of it. And so yeah, the same thing applies to the games. And basically I've just got a quote here: every master is a master of vision. So basically visualizing what it is that you're trying to create. So sort of your internal vision and your internal moment of inertia. And this other quote by Emerson down here, which is, every action is measured by the depth of the sentiment from which it proceeds. I love that quote so much. And I think that's very true with game development. It's if you invest the time into sort of understanding your sentiment, I think then the work gets done easier. You're much clearer on what you have to do, and it's easier to stick with it. So a few other points. Meaning is buoyancy. So takes no effort. So if you think about a sailboat versus a rowboat, it's like you can sit in a rowboat and fucking row all day, or you can put up a sail and you can sail through. And basically, when a project is meaningful to you, you don't have to worry about effort. You don't have to worry about straining yourself, being tense, being disciplined, and like trying to work. It's like the motivation just like carries you through the project. And so the thing about motivation, which is the second point, is that it's not something that you can just like inject into your body. It's like you can't just necessarily get motivated. Motivation is more of an intrinsic thing. It's like already in there. It's wanting to be expressed. It's always wanting to be expressed, and it's just a matter of sort of lining up with it. And so there's this book here, or this is the title for a book called Don't Push the River. And basically the idea is that like if you imagine you're in a river and the river's flowing along, can you just like imagine the insanity of like trying to speed it up by getting in there and splashing about and like pushing it? It's like such an insane like image. It's like, but this is what we do when we get caught up asking questions about, well, how to be more motivated, how do I be more productive, how do I like work harder, and all this. It's like all this stuff is sort of pushing the river, when the river's actually, it's carrying on at its own pace. It's steady. There's a lot of force behind that water. It doesn't need anybody to push it. And the same is true with your projects. It's like if you work on a project that is inherently meaningful to you, something that matters, something that you really believe in, and something that you're really passionate about, you don't need to worry about discipline, you don't need to worry about willpower, you don't need to worry about any of these other things, because the thing that wakes you up and gets you to work every day is it occurs irrelevant of all those things. It's still going to happen. You don't have to push it. And so that's the river. That's your motivation. And so when we adapt to what motivates and inspires us, rather than trying to get motivated or inspired, it carries along like the current of a river. And so sustained motivation, therefore, comes from self-awareness. So, like I said, it's already there inside you. You've just got to get with it, basically. And so emotional investment is non-negotiable in order to survive. Like I've said a million times, like game development is really hard and it's a long process, and it's very difficult to succeed if you don't care about your project. And so we're going to spend a bit of time at the start getting to the root of what it is that we value, and to choose a project that we love. So difficult to stay to the end if you're lukewarm. Develop something that grips you. If you've got a strong why, you can bear anyhow. And in a world of AI slop, pursuit of meaning is a revolutionary act. I think this is actually pretty important, because as the technology gets better and better, it's easier for people to churn out content that doesn't mean anything. Like it looks nice and it's great tech, but like it actually, as a work of art, it's like it's got nothing in it. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't have any emotion. And so I think pursuing games that are emotionally exciting, that you feel like speak to you, I think then there's a good chance that it'll speak to somebody else. And I think that's more important today than ever. And so to discover your intrinsic motivation, here are some questions that you might want to ask. So what is the story you want to tell? What matters to you? It's a very personal thing. What pain will you say yes to, and what kind of work is worth fighting for? These are two good questions. Game development doesn't necessarily need to be hard or feel like a fight, but I think asking these two questions sort of gets you to think about, well, what really matters. Like, what matters so much to me that I would fight for it, or that I would experience pain for it? Like, what's the story that I want to tell, or the game that I want to make, or the experience that I want people to feel, that I'm willing to like suffer for? Like, I'm willing to endure the troubles and tribulations that come along. Those are two good questions to ask. But on the flip side, there's also questions like this. So what kind of work is worth doing for its own sake, even if there is no external reward? What kind of work would you do if money were no object, if it didn't matter whether you succeeded or failed? And what purposeless work beckons to you? I actually quite like these questions the most, because I feel like my best projects sort of come to me from nowhere, and I have no reason like to want to do them. It's like, it's not for any ulterior motive. Like, I feel like these questions above, they might have an ulterior motive, or it might just be like, oh no, this just really matters and I just really want to do it. But these ones here, I feel like my best games are sort of created, but I have no idea like why it is that I want to make them. It's like I get an idea, and it's like I can't stop thinking about it. And it's like if I just follow that and then let that happen, it's like the game sort of develops itself through me. And that's a very fun and rewarding experience, and it's very exciting, and I love just watching it unfold. And it's just a joy for me to turn up to the computer every day. I don't have to constantly envision the future. I don't have to visualize it making money in the future, because it doesn't matter. It's like the work just every day is the reason why that project is important to me. And those are the best projects for me. Those are the ones that I have the most fun doing, and I think those ones honestly turn out the best. It's the ones that are just, they have absolutely no meaning other than just their own existence. There's no purpose other than themselves. No attachment to money, no attachment to success, no attachment to even like necessarily producing a specific type of response in people. It's just like just the games that I want to make. Like they're just meaningful on their own, and those are the ones that are the easiest. So something to think about. Maybe you can ask yourself those questions and see what comes up for you. So now we're going to talk about inspiration. So inspiration is not a luxury. It's a very important ingredient that is going to be required if you're going to try and make it through. And so it's very important that you stay inspired and not fall into this mentality of like squeezing the sponge. It's like, if you imagine trying to get water out of a sponge that is like mostly dry, one way is to fucking just wring it like this and to just like try and get every last drop out of it. Whereas like another way to get water out of a sponge is to just like drop it back in the sink, and then once you pull it out, it's like you don't have to squeeze it that hard anymore. This image pops into my head all the time when I'm developing, because I fall into this mentality of like trying to squeeze every last drop of like productivity out of myself in order to finish my games. And so that leads to burnout, by the way. That leads to you getting fed up with your project. You start to hate it. Your development starts to turn to shit. You start to take shortcuts. And you're not in it for the right reasons anymore. It's like you start to be in it because you want the result, and it becomes about ulterior motives and external reward rather than actually doing the work itself. And that produces mediocre work, because you don't invest the time into the things that matter. And then B, because game development is so hard, like you often don't actually make it to the end, and then you end up burnt out, and then the project actually never gets finished. And so inspiration, I've written here, inspiration is the currency of productivity, because you need to constantly like inspire yourself by resting, by consuming different media, and not just inspiring yourself like for the sake of more working either, but just like inspiring, like just experiencing inspiring things just because that's sort of what it means to be alive. And I think if you can sort of balance or master that art of like just appreciating just your existence and making the most of your existence, so that you don't need a game to succeed, and you don't need it to turn out a particular way. If you can really get the hang of that, I think that's when the best games are made. And they're also made the easiest, and it's like that's when they sort of start to feel like they're happening themselves. It's like when you yourself are just like living and breathing like a dream, and you're just appreciating the things around you, and you're consuming different media and trying new things, and you're just an inspired human being. Then the game is just like, it's like ash from a cigarette. Like it just, if it's burning properly, this is a quote by I can't remember who, but if it's burning properly, then ash is just the byproduct. And so if your life is burning properly, art is the byproduct. And so here are some suggestions for how you can stay inspired. Do something festive, so celebrate something, go somewhere, just celebrate, do something fun, do something different, go to a new place, do something just for the sake of it. So do something pointless, do something frivolous, I love that word, and just for its own sake, without a goal. Like just maybe play a ridiculous song on the piano, or pick up a canvas and just paint something like stupid, like just for the fun of it, no attachment whatsoever to the outcome. Stuff like that is great. It helps you really get those like creative inspiration flowing. Spend time around children is another one. Kids are naturally like this, so it can't help but to rub off on you. Search for highly regarded media you've never seen, so popular films, books, just stuff that is regarded as like the greats that you've just never seen, because you know there's a reason that they're popular. So that's a great thing to do. Rediscover your favorite films, games, or other art forms. I've been playing a game from my childhood recently, Metroid Prime, the remaster on the Switch, and that's inspired the shit out of me. Do something new or do something repetitive and old. I like to garden, actually, because I feel like the repetitive and sort of dull and like slow nature of it gives me time to think about my ideas and helps me get out of my head and not take shit so seriously. And so like this sort of repetitive and like familiar things where you don't have to think so much, I think they can be very good for your inspiration as well. They help you sort of fill your sponge a bit. And so the next 3 slides, here are some exercises for you to do. So you can read through these and do them. But basically, I want you to get a handwritten journal and then write out 10 to 20 of the most powerful memories you have from playing games. Excavating early inspirations, I think, is very important because it helps you get clear on the types of games that you want to make and how you might go about doing it as well, like the types of mechanics that you might want. So you can write down what you were doing, how it made you feel, and use childlike language if it was an early game. And it's important. I think it's important to also do this handwritten and not on the computer. So I've written down there because, well, I don't know about today actually, but when I was a kid, back in my day, you learn to handwrite before you learn how to use the keyboard. And so with your hands and a pen, it feels like a more like ancient and familiar connection rather than typing on a keyboard. And it's more personal as well. I think writing with a pen makes something handcrafted, whereas I suppose you can do the same with a keyboard. I don't know. I suppose that's what we do with game development. But handwriting is also good because you can draw pictures and do diagrams and shit like that. So I recommend doing it handwritten, but it's up to you. You want to get on Spotify or YouTube and explore the soundtracks for those games. Music is a very inherently meaningful thing, and the music from those games and those early memories can evoke feelings in you that you forgot that you had. And so collecting that music and then saving that for the future, I think, is a very great resource that can keep you inspired. I love to do this. I love to listen to old soundtracks of games when I'm developing, and I have a massive music playlist of shit that I listen to while I develop. It's one of the best things. You can find compilations on YouTube as well for your favorite games. And then the last thing is to get on Pinterest and make boards of fan art that you feel captures the emotional essence of those games. That's great fun. I think fan art is good because it's not just screenshots from the games themselves. It's like people's interpretation of how it made them feel. And so if you go through Pinterest, which actually I've got my Pinterest boards here, which I might just flick through. If you get some of that art, it can help reignite some of that like magic that you felt when you were playing that game. So like this picture here from Legend of Zelda: The Ocarina of Time, for example, this is fan art, and this is a very trippy and powerful moment in the game when you're in the water temple and you're walking past. See this tree here on the screen. As you walk past that tree, your shadow disappears, and you get to this door on the other side, and then you realize that your shadow has come alive, and then you fight your shadow. Very, very powerful and sort of symbolic moment that is. And seeing this fan art like this, it captures that essence in a beautiful way. And so, you know, this is what I do. Like I capture all of this like fan art from these games, and this I love to look at these because they light a fire in me and they make me excited. So I could look at these forever. Look at this one. God, that's exactly how it feels to come across those redeads from Wind Waker. Terrifying. And so like you can do the same for movies. Like I've got some Attack on Titan here. I fucking love this show so much. This inspires the fuck out of me. And so when I see these images, man, like oh my god, like I want to develop like a lunatic. I want to give my heart to the cause, like give my life. Yeah. And so this is just a vision board for a game of mine as well. So this is not excavating early inspirations. This is more mood boarding and vision boarding, which I think is the next slide. No, it's not the next slide. It's the one after that. So you can read through all of this here. There's a lot of writing here which I'm not going to read, but basically we're going to plan your game in this one here. So in a handwritten journal, write a list of 10 to 20 themes you would like to explore in a game of your own. You're not going to do 10 to 20 in the one game. You're going to pick one for the game that you're working on. But I think it's really fun to just explore concepts for games. This is sort of brainstorming. This is concepting, if that's what you want to call it. So in particular, ask yourself, what's the feeling that you want the player to feel while they're playing? So for an example, this is just one from one of my games. The feeling of being out in a foggy and alien landscape, lots of space in between checkpoints. I sort of like the anxiety that comes with that. Permadeath, so consequences for dying, and not sure where the next save spot is. So you can already start to feel that. It's like uncertainty, not knowing, stuck between save points, not sure what you're going to encounter in between. I felt like that playing Breath of the Wild actually a little bit. Walking between the stables on the map, it was like every time I heard the music from a stable, I was like, oh my god, like I'm safe, thank fuck. And then it was like you'd pack all your shit and prepare to go to the next one. And so the feelings here, it's like the feelings of anxiety, uncertainty, and yet in awe of the indifferent beauty of the harsh and dangerous environment. So that captures the essence of what I want to explore in that game. And so you can read the rest of these as well, write some of these yourself. You can draw on your early memories as well to try and figure out what the feeling is that you want to recreate, like what the feeling was when you played these games and like you discovered the Forest Temple, or like here's another picture of the Forest Temple. I've got a lot of pictures of the Forest Temple because that was the first dungeon as an adult in Ocarina of Time. It carried such a magnificent like feeling with it, and the music and the atmosphere, like very, very powerful moment. And so, I save pictures of that because I love that moment and I want to recreate that in my own games. So that's the exercise, 10 to 20 of those. And then you can also consider the medium as well. So we'll talk more about that later. And so once you've got that list, the next thing to do is to pick one of the feelings to prototype your game around. You want to focus on one, but you can add more in if you want. And then to make a Pinterest board of inspiring art that you think captures the feeling that you've described. So you can use art from games, or you can just browse random stuff and try and capture the feeling through shit like this. Like this is like I said, this is an image board for a game that I wanted to make. And so the more pictures that you can get, the better, because every time you browse this helps you keep the vision alive. Especially when you get deep in development and you start to lose sight of the original vision. This is something that'll happen to you because game development takes so long. When you're on like week 6 or fucking month 6, God forbid, and the project has taken a different turn to what you expected because maybe you needed to use different assets, or you've got all different other things to consider, like the performance and what models you've got access to, and just the amount of work that you can manage to put in. It can start to look very different from what you originally had planned. And so keeping this vision board that you've assembled at the start can be a great thing to return to, because it can remind you of the themes that originally attracted you to that project. So don't skip this step. Don't skip the early inspirations. I think this is very important, and same with the vision boarding for your project. I think these are some of the most powerful tools that can keep you going for years later. Like even looking at this now, like I want to do more work on this game, man. Like I'm sort of forgetting about some of the themes that I wanted to explore that are reintroducing themselves to me right now just looking at this. So, and then the last thing to do is assemble some music for your game as well. So make a playlist on Spotify or on YouTube of stuff that you think captures the essence of the game. So I've got Spotify playlists, I've got YouTube playlists. They're both great. So continue to add to these as well as time goes on throughout the project. Now we better wrap this up because we're getting it's quite a long video. The very last exercise is to just share the love. So this is a picture here of me playtesting one of my games with my brothers at home. So they're sort of my primary audience, and the reason that I make games is I like to share it with them, and I like to share it with some of my closest friends, and they're sort of looking forward to the playtests that I do with them is the thing that keeps me going when development gets tough. It's like say we're all going to be together in like a few weeks time, it's like that's my motivation to wrap up this last package, so then we can all play that together and then laugh and have fun. I think it's very important that you have at least one person you know that is going to play your game, and you can sit there with them and laugh about it and enjoy it and have fun with them. And then obviously you can share it online and everything like that, but these are the moments where you play it with people that I think are the most important. And so try to think, as your exercise, think of someone that you can share it with. And if you don't have anyone, you can share it in the server as well. And people in the server, like we're all gonna be witnessing each other's games, and that's great as well. So that's it. We're gonna wrap up now. So at the end of each week, you're gonna have a checklist of things to do. Try and do all of these, or pick the ones that call out to you and the ones that you feel like matters. And then once you've done all that, then you can continue to the next week as well. So that's it, guys. That's week 1. See you next week.